It's a bruise, that's right.
Welcome back to What Have You. I am Rachel Jankovic. And today, because Becca is still gallivanting around Greece eating feta and being inaccessible to us, I thought this would be a perfect time for me to bring Mom on the show and have her talk with us about Sabbath today. So Nancy Wilson, here she is.
Hello.
She's here. We're in her little office, her little cubby at Grandpa's house.
It is a cubby. It's a cubby for sure.
So, Mom, all the time we typically we've never done a full episode on Sabbath. I feel like it comes up always on the side, but we get so many questions about it because, and a number of people, yay, you guys who are listening, who are starting it, and who are like, we're going to do this, I'm going to do this. And
I love that.
So delighting that people are doing that. So, I thought, why don't we just take this time to talk through what you think are kind of
let's do it.
I would say, core principles around Sabbath. Like, what's the point of doing it?
So what is the point? When I know I have...
Actually, maybe first we should say, what is it?
Yeah.
In case you didn't listen to previous episodes.
Yeah. So every Saturday night, we have a dinner, and we invite all of our children to our home.
Yeah.
Well, I'm describing how it got started. This doesn't mean this is how it is right now. But anyway, this is what it is. It's just a kickoff to the Lord's Day. And
it's family and close family and friends. We say lots of daisy chain relatives.
But
initially it wasn't that. Initially it was just us.
So we had guests. We invited guests. So when Doug decided we really should start doing it, it's kind of like a Sunday dinner, the old-fashioned Sunday dinner, only for us, we started doing it on Saturday night because Sunday, with Doug having a heavy load, he just liked the idea of it as sort of the pregame.
Well, like a kickoff, but then Sunday is still pretty quiet and restful. Like we do all the hubbub Saturday night.
So when we started, and I just say, for those of you who are starting with little kids, it's so exciting. I'm so proud of you. We didn't start. We did not start until our kids were older. So Becca was engaged to Ben, so that made her 20, right?
Right.
So that made Nate 18.
I think
and
you started
16.
it. You started it. We had some friends who were doing a Sabbath dinner who had younger kids, I think. Yeah. And wasn't it Becca and Ben getting married that gave you the nudge of like a reason to have a regular gathering point? Like if
I don't know, because they were engaged when we started it.
Maybe, but I think it was kind of around that transitional time of like we always growing up, we had a very strong dinner time family culture.
Oh yeah.
So dinner time we talked and
Dad was always there at dinner, always.
Yes. And that was a strong anchor in our family life. So when we started Sabbath, it was more of a set aside a special dinner instead of the
Saturday night special dinner.
And it was at the time of our life as kids where we were not as regularly all there at the same time. Because like here's Becca getting married and we were... I feel like, I was still in high school, but it was probably basketball and volleyball and things happening. And so it was kind of like we had lots of interruptions to the normal. And so this was a new kind of regular thing to do.
Well, and it began a rhythm that we had no idea how important, how valuable, how strengthening it was going to be. We just thought, this is a good idea. We had this might sound funny, but we had just come to the conclusion that we should be drinking wine. That this was how we celebrate before the Lord. And so we instituted wine at Sabbath dinner.
And actually we never drank wine ever
before.
As a even at like Thanksgiving or Christmas. I don't think we would ever have had wine.
We might drink wine. I remember Doug was teaching a course at the U of I in philosophy, and they had a dinner with all the profs, and he was just a part-timer. But anyway, we decided ahead of time, if they serve wine, we're going to have it because that'll surprise them.
Because wait a minute, we're going into a place where they might have wine.
It's not like we were allergic to it or anything. We just were not wine drinkers, but we came to the conclusion that we should be because of how the Bible describes it. It's a celebratory drink We're celebrating the Lord's Day. And
Is
so
it in Isaiah about the Lord will make for thee a feast of fat things, a feast of, it is wine on the lees.
Yeah.
A wine well refined. Like
it's
the whole.
It's a beautiful picture.
It's sort of like, it's sort of, you would say it's comparable to a Christian being anti-milk and honey.
Yeah.
I mean, where you're like, it doesn't mean you have to love it or have it all the time, but this is actually a significant part of the imagery that God has put in the world.
So Doug had grown up in an actual teetotaling family where they had signed the pledge back, his parents back in their youth. Doug had never signed a pledge like that, but we knew it was maybe going to rock the boat a little bit, you know, that we were going to start doing this.
But it didn't so much.
But it wasn't a big deal.
No.
And so anyway, that made it very special.
I just want to say we continue to be a very conservative wine drinking family. We do drink wine, but we are not we're not that much.
Yeah, it's not like
it's a celebratory thing, but not an explosively indulgent thing.
And we enjoy it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fun gift from God, but I don't. And this is a side note, but it's just that I don't appreciate the culture that can develop around the pictures of the woman always with the glass of wine in her hand, or or
as though you need the wine to cope with how obnoxious everybody else is.
Some of it is funny, like the apron that says, "See, I cook with wine, and sometimes I put it in the food."
Yeah,
I mean, some of it is funny, but it get too.
It starts.
Too far,
it's usually done by people who don't think drunkenness is a problem,
well,
and so
or
it
just
makes
aren't paying attention. And the thing is, Scripture admonishes the older women in particular, to not be addicted to much wine. It doesn't say you may not have it, but don't be addicted to much, and it doesn't say how many glasses even.
No, just says not.
That's
Make sure whatever it is,
whatever
not much.
It's not much. Yeah. So I think you can get. You really, particularly older women, we need to pay attention to this. It's to us. It's addressed to us. So pay attention.
Yeah. So wine was a big thing. Yeah.
I remember not knowing the first thing about it, and so I went to the grocery store to pick out some wine. And here there's a lot of stuff. I had no idea. And a friend was there who was well versed in wine. And I told him what I was looking for. And so you know what he did very wisely? He pointed me to this sparkling white wine.
Oh yeah, it was Balatori, right?
Yeah, it was like it was like soda pop.
Yeah.
And so
not quite. But it's in no way dry.
It's a sweet sparkling wine, and so it was very bubbly, celebratory, perfect. So we began with a toast. Yeah. With our wine on the table.
Forgot that because it's been a long time since we've had a Balatori.
Yeah, we moved on to red wine, but we have.
I feel like we may have been in some Sutter Home. There was some Sutter Home and Corbett Canyon level.
I don't think I ever did Sutter Home, but I know we did a lot of. We moved to the Shiraz, that Australian that comes in a ginormous bottle.
Yellowtail? Is that the
Yellowtail? Yes, because that was just a safe whatever. Yeah, this will do. Mm-hmm. But anyway, and now we're we are so sophisticated. So it's like, is it red or white? Okay, but anyway, so we got that going, and I'm glad I jogged your memory.
And that the wine was specifically.
You remember it being kind of.
Oh yeah, but the wine was a deliberate choice. Mm-hmm. That in the same way that we celebrate the Lord's Supper, we're celebrating we're not doing the Lord's Supper at Sabbath, but we're celebrating the goodness of God to us in these things.
So we didn't have wine any other night.
It was set aside fun time.
And I got once the grandchildren started arriving, I started buying little teeny wine glasses so they could have a sip. And around when Knox was, old enough to be kind of talking, we went over to Doug's brother's house, and they had the tables all set up with the candles, and he said, Sabbath. Yeah. Sabbath. So he recognized it.
Yeah, and actually Sabbath. Moses did the same thing one time when I put stemmed cups on the table. Yeah. And he was like, we're having Sabbath? Yeah. Just this assumption that if the table is really set, if you're really looking they know. And I love that when they see a table that looks like good things coming, that their thought is the Lord's Day. Right. Like, this is the Lord's Day, and this is how we... So
it was a very intentional move. It's Saturday night for us as the kickoff to the Lord's Day. We toast, this is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. We have wine.
So Dad lifts his glass and says, "This is the day the Lord has made."
Yeah.
And all the rest of us say, "We will rejoice and be glad in it." And we toast that way. But we also, then now Dad asks the kids a number of questions.
Right. Somewhere along the line, as the grandkids kept coming, and they just did. It's amazing. 17 of them now. But he wrote a little liturgy where he could ask the kids questions. And so we've been doing that for a long time. And so there is a little liturgy back and forth. And he does that right after the toast. And then after the liturgy, he prays. And the liturgy is just like questions. And he tailors them to the age of the
So
kids.
I feel like we're kind of in between phases because we have people outgrowing being part of that. Like once they're in college, really, they're in the adult group
out.
instead. But I'm trying to think of how I have to say every time anybody says, "What day is it?" I always think, because that's one of the questions for the kids is, "What day is it?" And they say, "It's the Lord's Day." And it says, "Why is it the Lord's Day?" Because Jesus rose from the dead. And then, "What kind of a day is it?" It's a sweet day.
I just remember Belle was the first one, I think, to get that question, sweet day, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Because I see her little fat face.
Yeah, well, the one that I think
Sweet
is
day.
Seamus saying answering the dragon, but he just says the blaggin. Like,
Yeah,
it's like the
yeah.
blaggin. And then, so what is let's see, I'm trying to think of what are some of the other questions. There's a lot of kids,
he asked, why is it the Lord's Day? Because Jesus rose. I mean, we could print it up.
I know, I'm trying to think of what the other parts of it are, because there's some,
I think he's posted it on his blog before, but you could
and then the
up.
final thing is Dad asks the kids, what's the point of the whole Bible? And they all yell together, "Kill the dragon, get the girl." And then we sing Psalm 134, right? Which is, "Behold, bless the Lord, all you servants of the Lord."
Other times we've sung other
We've been through a lot of different songs.
Right.
Right now we're on a Psalm 134 kick.
Yeah.
In
it's sweet.
Advent, we sing "Joy to the World."
Right.
No, in Advent, the toast is "Joy to the world, the Lord has come." And
so we shuffle it around.
We do. We're a variety show.
Yeah.
What I was going to say, though, and what I think is going to be what I feel like is that we're a solid generation into doing this. It's been a long time, and we have grown children now who grew up doing this all the time.
And all of the grandkids have been doing this since they were babies in the high chair.
So I wanted to talk about a couple of the real get to, not got to, like just the principles around making a party that means something to your family that is not a bad thing to them. And it's amazing how quickly women can sour sweet things by being grabby or demanding. And I think that's something we would all that Becca, Nate, and I, we would all say you and Dad have done an amazing job of, is not being, there's never been a "you will be here" for Sabbath.
No.
That's not a player in it at all. And it has never been like, "Don't you realize you have to come?"
Oh, my word.
Because it's family time.
No.
And there is
How to kill it.
No, but absolutely how to kill it, because it becomes an entanglement. It's not a free gift. It's not a gift, it's a demand. And so I would say people always want to know the skinny on how do you do it and who's responsible for what and who does the dishes.
Well, see, that's a question I get so often is who does the cleanup? And, no offense, but I just always think, come on, people.
No, get over yourself.
It's a Christmas dinner. It's a gift it's a celebration to the Lord. I have a dishwasher. I mean,
it always makes me laugh, though, that the disciples, when Jesus miraculously makes the food, that he does not miraculously do the cleanup.
No, they have to gather it.
He says, even though he made the food out of thin air, he's get some baskets and go pick all that up. And I think that that's such an important part of the work, is rejoicing in the picking up after. Yeah.
And the thing is, when we started, excuse me, there were 6 of us.
Yeah, and it was very under control.
Yeah, and I would get out my granny's crystal and china, because when else would I do that? And
Not so anymore.
Iron the tablecloth and
because it was a tablecloth.
Yeah, and then Doug and I bought a Sabbath table from a builder, a wood furniture maker in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
An Amish builder,
Amish builder, and when our table came, it was much rejoicing, and it has 12 leaves.
Yeah.
So I have sat 23.
I think it's 18 foot, right?
Yeah, it's 18 feet. I should have done 20, but it's all right. And so when that thing came, it's like, whoa, this is...
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. So it became... Then we had boarders, so we'd always invite the boarders when they, to join us. And then their boyfriends would be joining us. And it grew so that I put more and more leaves
I think
in that
Sabbath
table.
has developed... I have compared it to a tornado that once it gets going, it just starts grabbing stuff that's on the edges, like anything
Pulling
nearby us, which is why we have a lot of daisy chain family that's all part of it, and that's
But
wonderful.
I love that it was very gradual. So first we had Knox in a high chair. I bought a very nice high chair. I thought this will be all the grandkids will sit in this. We moved on to
we dwindled off to
Ikeas.
Satellite IKEA high chairs.
Because we had 3 babies at one time.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then my tables, I would try to make it pretty. I started buying the white buffet plates from
Crate and Barrel.
Crate and Barrel because I couldn't.
But then we moved on. China. Then we moved on to having Corel because Corel stacks tight in the
Corel. I thought Rachel introduced me to that. I'd had it when I first
I didn't
married.
Introduce you. Yeah, but they do
Sabbath,
make plain white. They do have They do make some really functional.
Do.
And I would say you always, when the kids were really little, one of the ways.
What do you know? I'm sitting by a full pack.
Sound effects.
Water.
It's like a full.
There you go. Sorry, everyone.
No problem. So, because when the kids were little, some of the ways that you made it a delight to the kids.
Candy on the table.
She would put a table runner down and then scatter candy. So, in the fall, it would be those little Hershey's extra sugar pumpkins. Those pumpkins that are pow in
jelly
your face,
beans
so much sugar.
At Easter.
And we would put just making it look like, and around
like
Christmas time or even Thanksgiving, you would always put a mandarin in each place, or always. Just having it look like a fun, welcoming.
Okay, but let me tell you. So, I love setting a table. Love it. It's my favorite to try to make it look pretty, especially if you have pretty dishes. Flowers, candles. I love doing that. So, one of the things I had to learn is I got my big table. I get it all set up. It's looking so glam.
Yeah.
And then as we proceed into dinner, I look down and it is a total wreck.
And especially because people are muffling around with the tablecloth or wine spilled on it and
they're throwing
blobs of potatoes.
Their napkins on the table and all this stuff. And I remember having to go, okay, so get over it. That is, just stop
Deal
it.
with it.
Stop it right now. And it's been great because I never, now, that gives me joy. Seeing it all disheveled.
Well, I
doesn't
remember,
matter anymore.
This was a different topic, but it was something that I remember being so struck by is that no chef. So I just would notice having little kids. You go organize their books. Everybody needs to read right now. They're all sitting in the middle of the books because you have invested some love and loveliness in this. And so they're all in there.
It attracts them.
Enjoying it. Yeah. So you go organize the dress ups, and even if nobody's played with it for forever, they're in them now. They can't resist it if you're doing it.
It draws them in.
Or if you totally clean the living room and it looks brilliant, everybody immediately thinks board games. I don't know why, they just do.
It's and
I realized
good observation.
Yeah, but I realized that if no chef would be so pleased if he does this masterpiece and he sends it out if it comes back untouched.
I know. How sad.
And the idea that we think if I do a really good job, no one should mess it up. It shows that we are not correct about what kind of job we're doing. Right. We're not making plastic food. We're making real food. And so when you set the whole table, you want it to look like not a thing left and someone probably licked it off when it comes back. And that's a sign of a good job.
Of a good party.
And that those odd things that are always when you're cleaning up after Sabbath. Somebody's twisted, like if you had candy on the table, little foil twists
yeah.
of stuff or weird napkin arrangements.
Oh, yeah.
But it's the things people did while they were enjoying each other, while they were
Right.
talking and fellowshipping. They messed up all of this or made a little pile of salt and put like, you know,
Just
whatever
like,
random
okay,
things. We've
so
all done that kind of
on
thing.
our Sabbath table, which is cherry, really pretty table. Someone must have used like a knife, like a dinner knife or whatever.
Talking about the old one?
No, our Sabbath table, and drew a smiley face. It's a big smile and 2 eyes. And when I found that, you know what? I loved it.
I need to go look for this, Mom. I love that.
It is at one of the ends. There's a big, and it's just like a big U and 2 straight lines for eyes. And when we first got that table, our precious table got shipped across the country, Doug dropped something on it and chunked a little hole in it. And he said, well, it's been baptized. And it just is like free, you know, it's really freeing because there's been a lot of happy times around that table. Mm-hmm. And there are the dents to show it and a big happy face. It's not a grumpy face.
Isn't that so funny?
And I don't know who did that or when. But it does.
We always laughed that in the last Sabbath table, Daphne was carved on one end.
Oh, yeah.
But it cannot have been Daphne who did it because the name was spelled phonetically like D-A-F-N.
Well, I think Ben and Becca have that table.
I know, but that was the original, our first Sabbath table
that we used until we outgrew it. So.
Yeah.
The good thing about the table was I could figure out how many people are coming and put in enough leaves, and I bought 3 white tablecloths that didn't need ironing, different sizes, so I could layer them to fit whatever.
Right.
And then it was the whole... We did a lot of place cards, and you gave me the little porcelain ones that I could write on.
I don't think I gave you those.
Maybe I got them at La Bella Vita or something.
Oh, maybe.
But because we did have to do place cards.
Yeah, and now... Right in this little interim, we've been hosting Sabbath at Mom and Dad's house, and the seating is always a challenge. Whatever you do, there's some downfall to any side. But we have not, because it's summer. We've been doing a lot more. I didn't do it in the summer, but
sometimes it really frees everybody when they find their place. Instead of feeling awkward or someone sits here.
Inside, you kind of have to give them a place.
But it takes forever to figure it out.
That's true. We would do a dry erase on the plate.
Yeah.
We started doing that. We were not as fancy as Mom.
But
we would write their name on the edge of the plate and just...
And it worked really well.
And it actually works great. It's an easy way to do it as a... and I always draw... What I think is complicated is I would make a list of the guests from... adults to college, teens, kids.
Yes.
And then we put everybody down in there. And then, this is when it's inside, how many can you seat at each table? Because we have like a satellite table and then this table and then that table and then the big table. And then you try your best to figure out who shall we put where. I don't know. It just ends up being up being hilarious. It's like
I would
stuff
give
them
that job
into corners.
When we had the boarders. Mm-hmm. And I'd be like, I'm making dinner. You figure this out.
Yeah.
Because I don't have time to do this.
It's really hard.
Very time consuming. But so they would figure out how many chairs, how many leaves, and where we're putting everybody.
We did start doing a thing where we try to do this when we do the seating for adults, is that we do one on the end of the table with the wife to the side. But then if you immediately start in couples so that couples are overlapping one, instead of one couple straight across the table from the other couple.
Yeah.
You alternate it so that you end up, every couple is, so it works in couples like instead of it being like a whole bunch of lines like a ladder. It's like a W, like an ongoing W zigzag.
That's good.
Because it helps the conversation to not lock into well, the 2 of us are here, and then or the 4 of us are here, and then the 4 of you are there. But honestly, there's always things going on.
That takes time, and we'd have guests. And one of the things I loved about Sabbath. So as we're talking about it, you have to remember it spanned like 22 years. Yeah. So.
All these things did not happen at one time.
No, it's like it's been a very gradual. Add a seat, add another seat, add another high chair, add another. It's just a gradual moving. Yep. And some of the time I remember putting 2 or 3 on those benches, little kids up on benches. Then we moved to having all the grandkids at the table and the adults in the living room because we couldn't fit everyone. And then the older kids, we started moving into the library and putting the littles at the dining room table.
Oh, it's been very complicated.
And then we moved out and the Jenks picked up the torch. But I am going to say, back to dishwashing, because we kind of forgot about that, is in the early days, I mean, the boarders would wash dishes for me and sing. Do you remember that? I loved it.
You say the boarders, but I was part of
Casey,
that,
Bonnie,
for sure.
you, Jenny.
I was a child, not a boarder.
So she was one of the girls, college girls. They would do the dishes, and I loved that. As other boarders moved in, some of them were great about helping. I mean, it was just great. So it was never
But it's
assigned.
always, you always have a different collection of people going, because I always have liked to help with Sabbath, and I would try even when we were not hosting it to make a lot of food or do a lot of whatever. But there were big stretches. Like when I was pregnant with the twins, I think I didn't even sort of stir myself one way or another to do anything. We've all carried each other through different phases.
Right. But see, when we started, I was young. I mean, and when all the moms were having babies, I remember you all would say, "We just come over here and we
belly flop." And actually,
I loved that.
That's
what I wanted you to do. Yeah. I didn't want you to bring food. I wanted to do this for you because you were all
in those phases. We didn't. But as the kids grew, as our kids grew, they also became more adult-like in their appetites, which escalates things quite a bit into. But it was so kind in how God did it, because I didn't want you to help. I wanted it to be a gift every week. Yeah. And so, but then as the kids grew up and it got bigger and bigger and bigger, it hit this moment when all of a sudden I realized this is getting out of control. And it was right then that all of you started saying, "Hey, we got to help." Yeah, we'll help,
Yeah, and
we
so
noticed.
I didn't have to say. I remember the Christmas dinner when I don't remember who said it, but we barely made it. Like, there was enough food, but we barely made it. And it was like you all went, "I think we need to start."
I don't remember that. And I think it was just probably the holidays are so crazy because it's additional gathering. But I just remember that as like, okay, this went well, but we see next year, right? What's coming. Well, and I think that, so what I want to talk a little bit, I'm thinking about listeners or people who may just be starting this by themselves, is that you have a little bit of a disadvantage. Like there's an advantage, but it goes both ways. It's an advantage and a disadvantage. The advantage that you have is that you can see some example of what this kind of seed can grow up into. That you have a ton of like really tight community, family loyalties, that a lot of that would not be there without a weekly, like that this has been really instrumental in the cousins and the love across the family of keeping up with each other and what's happening, because we're very busy and everyone is doing different things. So
I love seeing how excited the cousins are to see each other, even though they're going to school in the same building.
Always excited to see each other.
And they love Sabbath.
They do. Love it hardcore.
And so when we started doing it, it was just out of principle. We didn't see.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say, is that if you're just starting, you might be looking at that and thinking, we'll never get there. But on the other hand, it's a disadvantage to not just be seeing that really all you were trying to do was do a special meal every week and celebrate the Lord's Day. Yeah. And then it wasn't like, let us plan for the grandchildren. It was not how it started. No. It's like it started in just a small thing. And I would say that there have been different times when it was genuinely hard to do. And one of those times that it is hard to do was when there were so many little kids that it was just like chaos, absolute mayhem. There were times when,
but it was fun. Even so,
but it would not be anybody's idea of a low-key dinner party,
or
even the kind of dinner party that would fill your tank up with like, wow. It had to be done in faith, and it was hilarious and delightful, but only because you were so open-handed about what it would be like.
Right.
And that the point was to love the people, not the formality of the event
you have to realize, like I mentioned, the temptation of seeing the table just fall to bits. But there was another temptation at one point along the way when I was at one end of the table and your dad was at the other, 20 feet away. And we were talking about this earlier. I couldn't communicate with him, or we needed to move on to the next thing. And it was hard to get down there. So I started sitting down beside him.
Yeah. And then you can just talk to him.
That just made it so much
Dad
easier.
has a much louder voice than you. So
think?
if he needs to say, okay, everyone, do whatever, then that's no problem. Mom couldn't get our attention, I'm sure.
Right.
But the other thing is
just be strategic. I'm just saying, depending on your temptation, because I think, you know what, I'm just going to sit down here by him. Whatever's happening at the other end, I'm fine. And if someone is throwing things around, I'm by Dad, and if he wants to correct it, he can or not.
Our children would never.
One time, a friend of mine for one of my birthdays gave me this set of these really cute little. They were straight glasses, different colors. Do you remember those? Tall, narrow, very tall, like 3 inches, for the kids for their wine. Okay, so do you remember those? Oh my gosh! Every week somebody would break theirs,
just a nonstop shebang.
And the other day I was packing up, getting stuff out of your house anyway, and I have one left, and I pulled it down, and one of the grandkids, I don't know if it was probably one of your kids, said, "Oh, Daphne, oh, I remember those." I said, "Yeah, this is the last one.
This is all there is."
Yeah, and it was.
Funny.
It was a happy memory. So it's just letting things go.
Yeah, it's not that precious.
I quit using the fancy pantsy crystal way before. I got the tippy short wine glasses. I've got, and you just have to
just can't. We can't.
And it's really been so healthy for me because to say, oh no, it doesn't matter. No worries.
Yeah, maybe this is why people got into pewter glassware.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead and
maybe they just wanted them to be something that was unbreakable forever.
It's like, that smiley face. Yeah, you need to go find that. That's kind of a sweet thing.
I should go check that out.
And every so often I would ask you kids, you married kids, like, don't feel like you have to keep doing this. If you want to start doing your own and make this more of a, different, and the response I've always gotten is, "Oh, Mom, are you kidding?"
No, nobody.
But it was
we love it.
We let it go. Whatever. It doesn't have to be every week.
So something else that I said, Mom, in Yoo-Hoo, not about Sabbath dinner, but something I said in Yoo-Hoo is that faithfulness does not feel like what it is accomplishing, and Sabbath has been a real example to me of that, because I know it from all the directions. I know it from being the person who comes when you're very tired, when you feel like and it is such a relief to come and have your kids so excited to come and to just
show up.
And you just show up and you're exhausted, but someone else has thought they have thought of you. They have done things to make, and that is such a relieving thing. But I also know it from the side of being the hostess, and it's hilarious when everybody comes in exactly that mode of like, so glad someone thought of me. This is time. And I guess the thing I was thinking is that it doesn't feel anything like what it is doing.
It's an investment. It's going to cost time and money, and you're going to break a lot. You're going to break a lot of dishes. You're going to spend a lot of money on wine and meat. And for a long time, I would just buy large pieces of meat, and we would have.
But then we actually got past the point where a large piece of meat would work.
I'd have to get so many large pieces of meat.
That's a tip. That's a funny thing, because I remember when there were a lot of kids, Luke would come carve the meat for you.
Oh, yeah.
And one thing we would always do is carve a whole bowl of bite-sized meat.
Yeah.
Like he would use the electric knife to chop up, like to cube it into, or the pork loin.
Yeah.
Just cube.
Pork loins will still work. And they are economical. And you can do.
But I meant
but
he would do the whole thing.
You
can
get
have a whole
like
bowl,
3 of them.
A whole bowl of pre-cut kid food.
And the dads, we'd get all the kids at the table, and the dads would come in, and they would walk around with the mashed potatoes.
The dads would serve the kids.
And serve all the kids food, and get them all taken care of. And then...
and we'd have to make rules like that the kids could not come get seconds before the adults had all been through the line. Because the kids were... They would dive in. Were so starving. And plus it was food that they loved the most.
Yeah.
So when the kids were really little, I feel like we had a lot of the Reese's frozen dinner rolls. It was like Sabbath rolls.
Oh, yeah.
And your cheese... Rhodes.
Not Reese's.
What's Reese's?
Pieces.
No, that's certainly not... How funny.
Rhodes. I would get a couple of bags of those and get them out, in the
morning sometime.
Well, no, it just takes a couple hours to rise, and then 2 or 3 hours. And
I guess they were warm still.
And then honey butter. And
honey butter is half honey, half butter mixed up, and it's delicious.
It's not. It's.
I always do it equal parts.
No, I don't. I do half as much honey as butter, but you do it your way.
Equal parts.
Yeah, you can do it however you want.
Actually, when I say that, I
just
don't really measure it. I just look at it. I leave some butter out and I pour honey over it.
Yeah, don't melt the butter. But it's like if you do a cup of butter, do half a cup of honey. But do it however you want.
Stir that thing up, and then you put it on warm rolls, and it's epic.
My word!
And it's very Sabbathy. Honey butter is
and when the rolls
Sabbath.
Come out of the oven, you walk around with a cube of butter with the
rub it on it.
Yeah, and rub over all the tops. Yeah, and the kids, it makes the house
So we would do those, and
good.
we would also do the cheese potatoes.
Cheese potatoes,
which is like, wasn't it like frozen hash browns?
Well, frozen hash browns is like the cheater's way to do it. When you're making mountains of it.
But didn't we do that?
I used to just cook the potatoes and cut them up, and then I moved on to frozen.
Why would we then cook a potato when we were making that much? No.
But that. So anyway,
we don't have those that often now,
no,
and when we do, it's like the kids are all singing "Home on the Range." They're so excited about that. Yeah. But that part of what I meant is that we were not there was a lot of focus on delighting the people who are actually there.
Yes.
And not trying to achieve some standard in the sky that. No. Does not actually connect to the people at your table.
We would put butcher paper down on the table sometimes. And
crayons. Coloring crayons all down the table. We still do that when we do soup nights. We do coloring on the table for the kids because that's a fun.
and our supplies. So we started just accumulating folding tables, folding chairs, all kinds of tablecloths, all kinds of.
I'm a big fan. I have to say, I'm a big fan. There's things that I have learned. Benches. Which is a bench that you can put behind couches.
If you have a place to store
but benches can. You probably have places in your living room that you could sneak a bench in and not really notice. So, like in your living room now, where the windows go down low, so the couch is off of the window a little ways. I can put a couple benches behind the couch, and you don't see them.
No, I love
anytime except for when you have to whip them out to use them.
I love a bench.
And the other thing is drop leaf tables. If you can find tables that you can use as an accent table in your living room. If it can pretty much go up against the wall, but when you're having people, you can flip it up and put benches around it, and you have another,
So, just so many supplies for different times of the year.
And then you bought a bunch of drop cloths, and those hallway length drop cloths work great as
and that is like for painters, but I think, Becca, I don't know where I got the idea, but I found these at the hardware store.
You just actually can buy a lot of hemmed canvas, essentially.
Yeah. And I cut some of these for hallways in half and hemmed them so they would cover one table. And then I kept some the full length because sometimes it's really fun in the yard to do one long table, which would maybe be 4 or 5 of the folding tables.
With those drop cloths, they're really stiff. They're really stiff and awkward at first.
But they wash, they bleach.
If you put them in the washing machine with a lot of bleach, fresh out of the package, pretty much, and let them sit for a little while, like a couple hours, I would say maybe 3 hours with quite a bit of bleach in there, then wash it, then rinse them and wash them, and maybe you might have to rinse them again if it's a lot of bleach in them. and dry them. They come out like that, really, like a really rough linen-y, kind of a very pretty.
I never did that with ours.
No, you just washed
them a lot.
You did bleach them, and you washed them a lot.
Yeah, every week, dump the bleach on all the wine stains.
Yeah,
throw them in the wash.
They're like so duro, and they're soft.
Hang them out over the deck to dry.
Yep. And I'm still using them all the time and washing them.
And they're a really pretty muslin-y color.
Natural color, but
so
they weren't. But they sometimes are kind of dark at the beginning. But if you wash them with bleach, they soften a lot and look like a really pretty cotton.
They're very durable. And then I do runners, napkins.
Yep.
I love colored napkins. I just love cloth napkins, and they're not that big of a deal to wash.
You're on the right podcast. As a person who wants to talk about cloth napkins.
I was wanting to interrupt you when you were having all those discussions about pizza boxes, because I'm like, girls, don't. I just pull them out of the dryer.
We moved into the pants hangers. I moved into the pants hangers.
I know, but I just stuff them in my buffet and don't worry about it.
I still struggle between, look at us. Here we are off again into the cloth napkin bushes.
But I'm just going to say that it's just fun to have a stash.
Yeah.
And they last and last and last, and you wash and wash and wash. And,
So, here's a question. How do you think Sabbath Dinner changed you?
How did it change me? Oh my goodness.
I mean, because when I think
it built a lot of confidence, I think, because of having to do it every week and having to do it and learning how to cook for a big crowd, learning my weak spots.
You have to kind of go rogue and just do it.
Yeah.
You have to figure it out yourself, because nobody does it for you. They don't figure it out for you.
No, but it went from 6 to 8 to 10 to 12 and then just inviting. Ben would call and say, hey, there's a visitor from can I bring him to Sabbath?
Well, we all do that if anybody.
And I know everybody would do. I love that. And one of my favorites was when the grandkids would say, can I bring a friend to Sabbath? It's like, oh my word, please do. I love it.
I should say my kids sometime came up, and now I can't even remember the context, but it was somebody talking about like how it was somehow about eating or tables or where it came out that they pretty much had not ever seen a cloth napkin or had a glass of something.
Not that
and
unusual.
My children, just the flat faces of like,
where have you
been?
Yeah.
Like, and when we talked about it later, however it came up, if it was like, oh, I don't really ever eat with my family, or whatever it was, when it came up later, it was like they were all just so
sad.
Hurt for someone who did not have that. And then Lena told me also, after she had her track this year, since she's been in high school, she's had more things where they were late to Sabbath, or they were in a volleyball game and didn't get back until later or whatever. And she was just like, you just don't realize how much you're going to miss it until you can't be there. And it's the worst thing ever. Like, I'm really,
I have
hate
loved
not being there.
That the teenagers, the grandkids
they cannot wait to get back. They're like, get me out of this bus and take me to Sabbath dinner.
Well, even Ben and Becca in Greece, she said, we'll be back for Sabbath.
That is, everybody is that way. It's like we roll in from wherever we are trying to be there in time.
But when you say, what else did I learn? I
Sorry.
just want to say my weak spots. I mean, I named that right when the dinner's almost ready and the guests are coming. The hour of darkness, I call it. And
that's a hot spot.
And that's
faux show.
Yeah. And you would often come in and see me and be like, "It's okay, Mom. We're gonna be fine." and you sometimes I'd call you girls like, "Okay, look what happened, and how am I supposed to wing this?" So hitting that point where it was so nice to have experienced cooks on deck who could help me manage something that's going south.
Yeah.
Or like, okay, we had some sweet things happen. Like one time, a man. And you know what? Guests come on time. And so when you kids would all drift in late, I'd be like, you have to come early.
Now that I'm hosting, didn't I do the same thing? Telling everybody, listen, we have a lot of guests, so please come on time. Because otherwise we're trying to make dinner and all the guests are there and none of the family. Because everyone's like, oh, sorry. Like they're cracking in as we got it together.
This is like a joint effort.
But I do have to say, in this theme, hosting Sabbath, one of my favorite things is when you're late. Because I love that you're also playing a different part in the
Me? What are you talking about? Never.
Or when Mom leaves pans or bowls at her house, because Mom is almost as a level of efficiency at getting other people's stuff out of her house that you've never fathomed.
Because after Sabbath,
because you were like, here's
so
a sock,
things.
here's this, whose is this?
And
I
now
don't know.
I just walk away like,
sweatshirt.
I'll get it
I
later.
know, but it kills me. It kills me to have it be like a stack of stuff for me to give back to you at
totally
the door.
Deserve
I love it. It's
totally.
so good.
But just learning that, I'm frail, I'm weak, I can't do this by myself. Like, this is going to be hard.
Yeah.
But also having you all big enough and to help. And I also went through a long time of inviting 2 or 3 granddaughters over to help do setup. So they know I have a little bin of tiny salt and peppers in the buffet. And they go put them outside on all the tables. And they know where the candles are to light. And they know how to set the table. And I show them.
Yeah.
And that was a really sweet time, having the granddaughters come help out.
I think that so many of those things God has just arranged for us, because it wasn't a plan in advance. It's just the situation and the time made that happen. But what I was going to say is that Sabbath has taken a lot of your energy as like a grandmother. That's been your primary, that has been your primary, well, not that you haven't done lots of other things, but I mean, that's been your primary role in the family for a long time. And the interesting thing is that even to your kids, and I think I would speak for all of us about this, it's been more fundamental to your mothering than I can even remember in our early childhood. But part of the reason is because how much of a gift it was to us in raising our own little children to have someone carrying the same desire but older than us. That our houses, when we had a bunch of little kids, it's not like we were going to make a house looking amazing for a dinner. I mean, we could try to make something special happen. But when you're pregnant, when things are, it's hard. It's would not have been easy. And that was a real gift, that it ended up being a real gift in our own parenting, that you were still so actively parenting. Because it wasn't just I don't know, it's not just spoiling. It was a very simple thing around something we all share. It is the Lord's Day and our faith and family, and this is so fundamental. But it has taken up a lot. I just think, in my opinion, Sabbath Dinner really shaped you as a mother and a grandmother.
Totally.
This is actually, like, this is your legacy. This is what's happening. And I
when
think
the kids would file in, I'd say, they'd all come in and give me, and they'd say, "Happy Sabbath, Nana," and give me a hug, and it was just like these little rituals started without us planning them.
Totally, and we're here in Mom's office, and I see over here this book that we made for her that was
for Mother's Day.
For Mother's Day, that was all the pictures that all of us, which weren't very many, because it turns out that it's a whole book worth.
It's a
but
book
it
of
turns
Sabbath
out that
pictures.
we don't. It turns out that we don't take pictures of it. We just enjoy it.
But it's funny, the different phases, like you were talking about when we first started having boarders and they were all Rachel's good friends. I just remember that time. I have it in my mind of what that looked like.
But it's so different.
And
but it was that was an
era. That was like a 4-year era while they were there, 3 to 4 years. And then as the kids started coming, and it's grown and sweetened and matured.
So I was going to say, on one page of this, we had all the kids write one word that describes Sabbath and put it on a sticker, on a mailer sticker, and we stuck them all over here. But the words that are in here is life-saving, joyful, an inheritance, gift, anticipated, fantastic, tremendous, epic, epic, epic. There's 3 different epics. One epic from Shad with a K at the end. It's epic. A time for family, fun, family, loyalty, fruitfulness, sine qua non, fun sauce. It's so, but it's so formative for all of those kids. And it has been, but it's formative of such a powerful, beautiful thing, which is family and your faith, what the Lord's Day means, what it is to be a Christian, is so formative. But what it feels like you're doing is it feels like dishes and sweating over a frantic something at the end.
Oh, yeah.
It feels like it does not, you're not in the kitchen.
But it feels like both. It's
I
not
agree,
just
because
one
the
or
Lord
other.
gives you lots of moments to see it, but I still mean that the sensation of doing it is not the sensation of looking back to see what has been done. Right? Like the sensation of going forward and like, oh my word, it's already another Saturday and here I go again and it would be, to do this again.
Yeah, it would be all day Saturday. And then,
I still think it's one of my favorite things when people come to Sabbath and say, so what did you do today?
Oh, I know. I just would always
I'm always
say,
like, well,
I did this.
I was doing this. I think pretty mostly what you see is what I did today.
Yeah.
But I love it, and I love to think about how God will use it in the future, because we don't even know what.
And I love the
so
era
young.
that we're in right now, because we've been going up to our house for Sabbath that you're hosting, but it's never been, it's like this hodgepodge of outdoor tables.
Yeah.
And that is, I've got to go check on Grandpa.
She's going to go check on Grandpa. Hold on.
He's paging me.
Just wait 1 second, Mom. Oh, she left. She's leaving. I was going to say, well, we've been gone long enough, so we'll just say, so cheers to you as you start your traditions. Happy Sabbath, and don't quit while the cloud is still the size of a man's fist.
And enjoy it.
Enjoy it. Happy Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath.